Good morning. My name is Greg Dawson. I'm a Public Affairs Specialist, U.S. Small Business Administration, Office of Disaster Assistance. I work out of what is called FOC East, which is the country is basically divided into two segments. FOC East handles everything east of the Mississippi. FOC West, which is out of Sacramento, California, handles everything west of the Mississippi. And oftentimes on major disasters such as we have here, FOC East and FOC West comes together. In fact, we brought in about 15 additional public affairs specialists to assist. When I first got here, I was covering Nassau and Suffolk County and doing about 150 miles a day, and that wasn't working. I've got some help, and I've got somebody who's covering Suffolk County. Let me first of all say that on behalf of the agency, our hearts and our prayers go out to the survivors that have been impacted by this disaster. One thing that I've found out in my experience in the last 7 years in this arena is that disasters don't discriminate, and if you get in the way of a disaster, it's going to impact you. SBA teams with FEMA on all presidentially declared declarations. SBA as well as FEMA operate under what is called the Stafford Act, and they provide the policy and guidelines. What you can find available from the SBA are low-interest loans for homeowners, for renters, for businesses, and nonprofit organizations. Homeowners can borrow up to $200,000. Renters can borrow up to $40,000. Businesses and nonprofits can borrow up to $2 million. Interest rates on home loans are as low as 1.68%. On nonprofits, 3%. On businesses, it's about 4%. I'm going to give you a 1-800 number, which you should take down and keep it because it's very critical. It's our customer service center. It's 1-800-659-2955. I suggest if you were impacted by this disaster, whether you be a homeowner, whether you be a renter, whether you be a business, you get into a disaster recovery center. If you can't get into a disaster recovery center, you can call that 1-800 number, and I'll repeat it. It's 1-800-659-2955. And a customer service representative will walk you through the application process. Do not fear the paperwork because we've got customer service people who, again, will walk you through the process. I caution people that you can go online and complete our application at www.sba.gov. Let me give you a little scenario. I worked the oil spill in Alabama. The mayor would have a meeting every Tuesday morning with about 1,500 angry people in that meeting. I came in, I gave a presentation on SBA and our disaster loans. After that presentation, a gentleman came up to the microphone and said, I applied to SBA and I got turned around. The mayor looked at me and says, Greg, if this man can't get a loan, nobody in this arena can get a loan. We walked outside, took his information, traced his application back. He had completed online. Didn't get the I's dotted and the T's crossed. That is key and critical in this process, and you've got to understand that you are going through a process. So again, I suggest you either get into a disaster recovery center or a business recovery center. We've got them located throughout the impacted area. And if you want to know where the closest one to you is, it's 1-800-659-2955. Somebody will tell you where that location is. Terms of these loans are up to 30 years. And what we do not make any credit decisions in the field. They are made in our Dallas-Fort Worth office. What they are basically looking at is repayment ability. I've got a loan program in my little hometown in Columbus, Georgia that was started some 20 years ago for minority business entrepreneurs. I used to say to folk, you got to understand this. It's a process, but Edna Dawson, when she was alive, loved me dearly. But if I went to her and asked for her money and could not show her how I was going to pay it back, guess what, baby boy, you can't get it. So I'm saying that to make a point. It's on repayment ability. Several eyes are going to be looking at those applications as they are processed. SBA is what we call a cash flow lender. They're going to be looking at the money that's coming into that household or business versus what's going out to determine if you have the ability to repay that loan. If you have the ability to repay, then those loans are going to be made. How long does it take? Typically, it takes about 14 days for us to process and turn a loan around. I have seen them turn around in about 6 or 7 days. But again, the key is a complete application. When you look at a long drawn-out process as it relates to the SBA and the disaster loan program, it's due to an incomplete application. You send that application in, it's incomplete, the government sends it back to you. So it gets back and forth and it starts bouncing around, you start getting into a time frame then. I say to people, once you get that application completed, go back into that business recovery center, go back into that disaster recovery center, let them go over that application with you, let them process it to Dallas, Fort Worth to make sure it's getting where it needs to go. We also have available what is mitigation. If you are approved for a loan, you can get up to 20% above what that loan approval is for mitigation purposes. I'm going to repeat that. If you are approved, you can get up to 20% above what that loan amount is for mitigation purposes. Do not disqualify yourself by not applying. People, let me tell you, these are your tax dollars at work. The worst thing that you can do is not take advantage of what's out here for you, either from FEMA or the SBA or other agencies that are here to help you. Interest rates, I think I said, were 1.68% for homeowners and renters, 3% on nonprofits, and 4% for businesses. Christopher, if you raise your hand, Christopher Dalton was on the schedule to present this. Basically, in the disaster side, they rather that a person who is working with disaster do those presentations. That's why we had this change. I got a call at 5:30 this morning to be over here, and I'm here. I will be around for a little while after this. I've got to get back out to Long Island because I haven't been out there in 2 days. I've been bouncing from Westchester to Nassau County to wherever they send me. And what I tell my boss is one thing about me, I know how to follow instructions at age 66. So I'm around for a while. Those are the basics that you have. But again, if you have questions after I'm gone, you can talk to Christopher. He can answer those questions. But again, that 1-800 number will get any questions that you have answered as it relates to the SBA disaster loan program.
My question is, give me examples of mitigation.
You got a house, it got destroyed, you want to stay where you are, but you want to raise that house. That's mitigation. Mitigation is to the point that you're repairing it such that it doesn't happen again.
I'm Ken Metzke. I'm the gentleman that's going to speak in about 45 minutes. But I want to read a statute in reference to what type of payments would actually be taxable, if in fact they would be, if you have certain benefits, and what's not taxable. And this pertains to qualified treatment for individuals who actually are a victim of Hurricane Sandy. And these are pronouncements from the IRS, and I think it's important that everyone actually hear the words. Because Hurricane Sandy is designated as a qualified disaster for federal tax purposes, qualified disaster relief payments made to individuals by their employers or any other person can be excluded from those individuals' taxable income. So what does that mean? If you are the recipient of disaster relief payments, not loans, disaster relief payments, I think what's happening with a lot of individuals is they're misunderstanding what a loan is and what a prospective relief payment is. They're two distinct items. A loan is a loan. It must be repaid. A relief payment is just that. They're funds that either an employer may give to an employee, or they're funds that perhaps FEMA may give to an individual because they qualify under a specific program. And these things happen for years. This is nothing different that's happened in the last 20 or 30 years in America. It's unusual for the New York metropolitan area to get hit with a disaster such as this. But if you are going to be the recipient of a relief payment, and it's considered a relief payment under those regulations, those funds are not included as income to the recipient. I think it's important to actually clarify that, if that answers your question from over there.
Is there a site that, I wish FEMA was here, but is there a site that tells you, this is an evolving process and things change and it's state, local, and federal governments, the president or the governor comes in and they do something else. Is there a central location where we could see everything that's changing and what's available, or do we have to fish around ourselves?
Well, as it relates to FEMA, you should go to the FEMA website. As it relates to SBA, you should go to the SBA website.
What I'm talking about, besides reading news releases ourselves and what the governor's doing, because everything's evolving.
Yes.
But is there a central location that says, New York, this is what we have, this is what's changing, this is something new that just came in?
It's my
Instead of fishing
understanding,
around us.
and don't quote me on this because I'm not sure, that the state is setting up one-stop shops that will house everything. But typically, if you go into a disaster recovery center, it's pretty much like a one-stop shop where all of the agencies are located: FEMA, SBA, the state, mental health, IRS, et cetera.
Thank you very much.